first of all, congratulations. I saw The Ghost before I knew you were involved in it, and I thought it was a fantastic short. Why did you decide to be a part of this?
Oh man, that's a good question. And thank you so much for watching and checking it out. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. I'll tell you the long story. So I talked to you first when I was doing Americanized, and I was doing the festival circuit for that. And by that time, they already had season one going. And I knew about it, but I was like, I don't know if I'm a Disney director. And I was at Palm Springs Short Fest, and I met this woman who was actually in one of the short films of the first season. And she saw Americanized, and she's like, I loved it. I really think you should apply to this program. It's called Disney LAUNCHPAD. And I was kind of telling her my reservations about the program. Like, I'm not quite, I don't have any stories personally that I want to tell that's within that world. I don't really know. But she really convinced me on it, and I've thanked her ever since then, because after I talked to her at Palm Springs Short Fest, I applied to the program, and months later I got an interview, and the rest is history.
Wow. Yeah, Launchpad has had some really good shorts. I think it's really great that they're trying to diversify filmmaking and make sure other stories are told. When you first came onto The Ghost, how did you bring your own style to it? Because it definitely has a very stylistic cinematography to it.
Yeah, no, I feel like with this kind of story, what really drew me to it is just like a badass little girl. Like, I liked that she was rebellious. I like she had a little spunk to her. I like female characters that are very like tough and gritty. And it's like a 13-year-old girl, and she had so much fire in her. And I felt like also like that part of with being a horror film, it gave me so much flexibility to go dark, to go more gritty, to play with camera moves, because I wanted to feel like an action adventure film. Because I know like it's supposed to be PG, it's supposed to be for kids, so you can't go too dark in the horror. So I kind of leaned it more towards the action adventure portion of it. I took some sequences from like Stranger Things, where like we're tracking through the house. But I feel like part of when I was growing up making films as a teenager, I liked surrealism, and a lot of the effects that we used were in-camera effects. I like kind of toying with like what we can do with what we have. Granted, like it was a big production, but I really liked the idea of these long camera moves to kind of show panic, to show like energy, and also to show emotion. Like at the I'm not gonna spoil anything, but like at the end when the little girl walks away and all the lights shut down, that was from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which is one of my favorite sequences in the library, when all the lights kind of boom, boom, boom behind Jim Carrey went out. I just really felt like this particular idea gave me the inspiration to feel like, oh, what can we do in camera? What can we do stylistically? In production, we have this scene that had a room filled with candles, and production was like, we can't have this many candles. It's way too many candles. It's a fire hazard. This is a real location. And the script was like, the wind blew the candles out. And I was like, we all have electric candles. How do we do this? And so I was mulling it over, and the camera move that I chose to use was like, let's have the blocking of the character reveal the room full of lit candles. And so when we whip pan away back to it, they're out. So you use a cut to blow out the candles rather than just like blowing out the candles with VFX or anything like that. So, I mean, ultimately, I just really got excited about this script. I've always wanted to do action adventure, and really just told me what it wanted to be. And I can add all these like really cool in-camera things I've always wanted to do.
Awesome. And even though Americanized and The Ghost are very different, there's a lot of similarities. I'm guessing you enjoy working with children because you uh, the sports aspect of it. It's a very cultural thing. Why do you continue to do stuff that fits that style?
I think because it's what I can identify with. You know, I was a kid playing sports. I was also like a tomboy. I have like a lot of fire in me, and I really like tough characters like that. I also love action. You know, I used to be a dancer and I played basketball, so a lot of it is choreography. I feel like I feel personally the most when I'm being moved physically. So blocking is really fun for me. And so I'm really glad that you saw the similarities between the two. So I'm like, I think that I can see the similarities.
Mhm.
But everyone's like, yeah, it's a Disney film. It's such a differently written film. It's not as nuanced as I tried Americanized to be. But I feel a connection to it because it's like young women trying to prove themselves. And it's kind of maybe mimicking my journey in this industry, like trying to prove myself as a director and feeling that grit of like, I can do this, like give me the opportunity or give me this acceptance that our characters are longing to have. So it's really honestly an easy theme for me to identify with.
Uh, both Americanized and the Ghost are very clean. They're very well made, very good quality. What is it about your style that allows you to either have a huge budget and have great quality, or a small budget and have great quality?
Oh my gosh, that's an interesting question. I don't, you know, that's a good question. I think the biggest thing I've learned with Disney is to make films the way you make them. And not change it just because you have a large budget with Disney, but lean on the way you do production. And with Americanized, it was super low budget and we kind of made what we could with what we had. But I also, as a director, keep production in mind, keep producing in mind. So I'll adjust the scenes for our resources. I'll make sure our camera angles are blocked for what we can do rather than think of a sequence that I really want that we can't really afford. I really believe in crafting really good scenes and really good visuals based on what we can do with what we have, and then have the quality be of that standard rather than like asking for the world and hoping that it's met with a lot more money, a lot more time, a lot more everything. Also, the casting is really great. I had the same casting directors actually.
Wow.
Claire Kuntz and Charlene Lee. They actually casted Beef. They're really good friends of mine, and they casted the Ghost. And Claire also casted Americanized. So really, like great cinematography and really great actors really is all you need, and make sure that you craft your visuals with the understanding of what you have access to, and don't try to push the boundaries, but at the same time, like make sure it feels all cohesive and within the value that you want it to be.
Definitely. And yeah, your cast is amazing. How do you get these young actors to portray such amazing emotion, because they don't have the experience a veteran actor would have? What do you tell them to get them to, project that feeling that you're looking for?
Yeah, I've actually had someone ask me that before, and the short answer is casting. So really, I think a good director relies on good casting in a sense that when you're doing the casting process, you poke around to see where the actor has their intuition. And then you use the casting session to adjust them to see if they can go in the direction that you want. We actually had another girl audition that I would definitely work with her in another capacity. She just didn't have the approach that felt right for this. And I tried to kind of push it and see in casting, oh, can she get there? I felt like it went short by just a hair. And that was the difference between being, casted and not being casted. But that being said, I've casted plenty of people in the past that their performances still resonated with me. And I'm like, oh man, I love their performances. It just wasn't right for this one particular character. But in order to get them there in the way you want them to get there, you poke around in casting to see like, oh, do they have the ability? Know when to not push them too far. If you do push them too far, how do they react? And do they have the same intuitions? Because you don't want to cast someone who's doing something like I did a comedy and I did Off Fairfax, which is like a comedy. And we're casting for one of the characters, and everyone did the comedy really, really broad, really high and charactery. The guy we actually casted was drama. And he's a comedian, but he does like more like subtle nuance and seriousness. It's like, that's more funny. If you take this silly script really seriously, that intuition is what we're looking for. So that's where you can pull the performances out of him and then up the funny later. So that's just like a long-winded way to say, focus on your casting, make sure you kind of, poke around with the actors to see like if you can kind of get them there or not.
Definitely. And the dual language was amazing. I think it helped help the audience identify with the characters. Why do you choose to do that? Because a lot of people choose to go the opposite way, have it all in English just because it's easier to film.
Yeah, for Americanized, I was trying to make a point because, like, being fifth generation Chinese American, I don't speak Cantonese, I don't speak Mandarin, and it's still to this day a very sore spot for me. And even though people watch the film, they'll still make fun of me, and that is a thing that I don't love. So that was like very specific for Americanized because I wanted to make a point. Like, I don't know how to communicate sometimes with other Chinese Americans who like to have a full-on conversation for a long time, and I'm just kind of sitting there. But for the Ghost, it's a lot of it is in Korean, which is really great. And the writer's Korean American. He worked on it with his sister to kind of get the language right, and it made sense for their household because they wanted the main character. Actually, Clarice didn't know how to speak as well. So that was her backstory and a little bit of her arc of like, I'm just not good enough like my older sister Naomi, who speaks perfect Korean and a perfect golden child. And I'm this like tomboy little girl that's trying to figure out herself, and I don't feel like I fit in this family. So it was like another tool to show how this character feels like an outsider within her own family.
Definitely. And with both projects, you've shown that family is very important. What role has family played in, your career and the way you've built it up and all the journey you've gone through so far to be where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely couldn't do it without my family. I think that because they so support the arts, like we've been doing art since we were 5, I really think that because of the support of my parents and my family of being an artist, I can have the career that I have today. They like love it when I have a film out, or they loved it when I was making like dumb music videos when I was, 15 and 17 and 18. And they always supported it and came out and showed up to all my screenings. And, stuff like that really matters. And so, like, whenever my friends have a screening, whenever there's events going on, I always make sure to show face because, like, having that support as an artist is really, really important. And I feel like a lot of my emotions right now is stemming from my family. With Americanized, my grandma was like 95 at the time. And I was really worried about that part of my identity being lost because she was like the last remnants of like a Chinese, like speaking Chinese person in my family. And then for the Ghost, I'm the youngest of 2 sisters. So I know what it's like to be a younger sister and feel really antsy. And actually, I'm writing a feature film again about my family. Now that you talk about it, I can stop talking about my family. I'm running a feature that's like a dysfunctional family road trip that kind of dissects like a father-daughter relationship. So I feel like maybe because it's on my mind that I've been thinking about it. But I also think that that's where I have the most heart is when I think about family, when I think of connection relationships.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on this. It's an amazing project. Americanized was amazing as well. And I can't wait to see the feature film because I definitely want to see what you can do with a longer time and how you develop characters because you have an amazing filmmaker style.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That means the world to me. That's so kind of you. And thank you for having me back. And let's do this again when I have my feature and see what different answers I have then.
Definitely. Thank you for your time.
All right. Thank you.